your flesh and blood.
Welcome to Tell Me Your Story, new paradigms for a new world where we're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. We are here 9 times a week, Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., and Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m., streaming live at all those times at richarddugan.com. We are on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, as well as YouTube, where you can watch these conversations. I hope that you will take time to subscribe and click notifications so that when a new conversation is posted, you'll be notified and you'll be able to tune in, listen in, and learn, and be entertained and inspired. A reminder that Choices, which is my book, 5 Steps for Life, it's available on Amazon.com in paperback, hardcover, and Kindle with Audible, soon to be released. We also ask that if you can support the work that we are doing financially, we do have a PayPal account. It is there for your security as well as ours. And when they ask for an email address to whom you're sending, please go to richard@richarddugan.com. That's the email address. If you go to richarddugan.com, there is also a link directly to PayPal so that you can send us whatever support you can. And we thank you to those who have helped and to those who will help. We also ask that you take time during this decade of perfect vision, the 2020s, to go within to that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place and listen to that still, small voice. And with that, we now take you to our very special interview and guest here on Tell Me Your Story. And welcome to Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. I am Reverend Dr. D. Richard Dugan here with returning guest after, I'm not even going to say how long. Beth McDonald is back with us, and she has provided us with some great programming, great information, insights, and we're going to talk to her today, and we'll tell you what the subject is in just a moment. But first, Beth, it is great to have you back here on the program. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Richard. It's been too long.
Indeed, it has. I have to say that the subject we're going to talk about, and when I say this, folks, if you've listened for any length of time, when I say this subject is near and dear to my heart, it's because I have been curious about it most of my life. Not fearful, not anxious or any of those things, curious. I'm just curious about it. I was a little annoyed on the 25th of June. I want to say 2010, I think it was, because that, I think, was the year and the day that Michael Jackson passed away. And I jokingly said he took the winds out of my sails as far as my birthday, because that's what everybody's going to be thinking. But the second funny thing the second thing I thought was, what's he doing? What's he going through? Now, we're not going to go quite into that area. We're going to bring it back into this area. I'm now 65. I was turning 50 back then. So that was 15 years ago. And I am now, and my wife as well, are facing a lot of the challenges that folks in this age bracket, my parents have already been through it. My father has, of course, passed away at the age of 91. My mother is still alive. We'll celebrate her 91st birthday in September. So I know she's been dealing with all the subject matter that we're going to be talking about. The first part I want to talk about has to do with, or that I would like for us to talk about, this aspect of thinking about, pondering, if you will, and even preparing for that particular day that we don't know when it is. We know the arrival date that was stamped on our birth certificate. We don't know the departure date. But we can prepare for it, not only in terms of paperwork and all of those things of this world, but also as my sister, when I asked her the question if she was ready, and she passed 3 months later, are you ready? And she said yes and no. The no was because she didn't want to leave her husband with all the stuff that he had to do, but she wasn't afraid. And that's a big deal. I am not afraid. because if it is lights out, there is nothing after this, I'm not going to know.
Yeah.
I don't believe that that is the case. So let's talk a little bit about that. Where do you work with people and start in terms of helping them to begin that process?
Oh, good Lord, Richard. In your usual way, you ask the right questions. You ask the right questions. When I first got into this business, it it always surprised me. The people who would call, the places where they were in their lives, and the spectrum, but also how public policy, politics, the economy, social values impacted the volume and intensity of those calls. And the short answer is people are often, because this is such a personal experience, at very different places when somebody calls me. Sometimes it's the person who's got the difficult diagnosis, and other times it's the family members saying, hey, this is bigger than us. We're not getting the help we need from the doctors or the hospice people or the insurance companies. There's huge gaps between what we're getting and what we need. And can you help us bridge those gaps? And so it's a very broad spectrum of people who call me. One of the reasons I started talking about this year in 2025 is that for the last year, the kind of calls I'm getting are very different, very more painful, very more dramatic. And these are calls from people who have waited too late to have these conversations, to make these choices, and now for whom their choices are being taken away. Or if you don't have a medical directive and you get to certain points, the doctors are going to decide for you. And and so I've got a lot of that going on right now. And because death is such a difficult topic for so many, and the consequences of not talking about it, I'm now realizing are so dire. That's when I kind of launched this um, campaign to kind of give people a way and tools to deal with this so they don't end up in dire straits.
Now, as my late father would remind me, he would have his wonderful phrase, and we've all heard it, at least the first part of it: eat, drink, and be merry. But
Yes.
my father added, in moderation, because no one gets out of this world alive.
Yeah, yeah.
And I know he was, of course, referring to the physical body. And that is true. So it's like, first of all, no matter what I do or don't do in terms of what you just brought up, my life, my physical body's life will come to an end, whether I do any of that stuff or not. Okay. But here's the kicker. And this is what you're
Yeah,
talking.
yeah.
What do I want to leave those who are going to stay here? What do I want to leave them with? How, I'll put it this way, how compassionate do I want to be to my loved ones, family and friends, in terms of all of that? Because I know that there's all the financial stuff, there's probate, and if you have an estate, and if you have any money left over. I mean, I came into this world with zero. I'm hoping that I can zero out just before I go, because I don't have any relatives. I mean, children in that regard. Um, so that's just my perspective. But
Yeah.
still,
No.
it's an interesting dilemma for a lot of people who have actually accumulated a whole lot of stuff.
Well, and that's only half of the equation.
Mm-hmm.
That's only half of the equation. There's a famous quote by a thought leader in hospice, in the hospice conscious living, conscious dying movement. His name is Frank Ostaseski, and he spoke here in Santa Barbara in 2018, I think. Hospice had a whole bunch in a very prescient move. Hospice of Santa Barbara and visiting nurses had a series of international thought leaders come here and do a speaker series on conscious living and conscious dying. And it was right before COVID. It was brilliant. I love our community.
Mm.
When in moments like this, it's like, yeah, you and I came to the right place, Richard.
Yeah.
Um, but Frank Ostaseski, and he talks about how he has a famous quote, and it is this: to imagine that the time of our dying, we will have the physical strength, emotional stability, and mental clarity to do the work of a lifetime is a ridiculous gamble.
Mm.
Like to save it all to the end
Yeah.
is a fool's errand. And he's not just talking about the financial end of it, he's talking about the magic of the moment. There's a lot of alchemy that can happen here. And it has been this way since ancient times. All the ancient and aboriginal cultures did and often still do believe that there's things that you can do in your lifetime in real time, so families aren't so fragmented. And so the death window isn't so complicated because you've already built the bridges, you've already mended the fences. Nobody's carrying so much baggage. And so the financial and the emotional sides of this are intertwined and interconnected. And so um, I love your father's adage. Because it's not just moderation in how you live on the physical level, but it's moderation on how you live on the mental, psychological, emotional level.
Yeah.
Are you keeping your side of the street clean? Are you conflict avoidant? Are you running from family members and issues that you're scared to talk about or you can't talk about without getting angry? That's the main piece that makes the death window so hard. And that's what I'm seeing so much more of this. I never used to see this before COVID. And now like 85% of the people who call me are in the midst of a lot of chaos and drama. And so it's not just about the paperwork. And do you want to donate your organs? And do you have a trust or a medical directive? It's like, oh my gosh, your brother and sister are at each other's throats. And I actually had this uh, dear friend of mine from high school. Her grandmother was dying, and two of her aunties got kicked out of hospice because they were fighting at the deathbed over the chifforobe and the armoire, the antique furniture. You know what I mean?
Jeez.
Like this happens. I could tell you stories that will curl your hair, and that's part of why I'm on this campaign. It's like,
Assuming
hey,
you had any, of course.
right, let's not go there. Let's just not. We can have a
Okay.
good death, and let's just figure
Yeah.
out what it takes, and take some baby steps now.
Exactly. This is a conversation that needs to be heard, needs to be discussed. It does really because we all, regardless of what we have or don't have, we're going to be faced with these issues. And so that's why I bring this subject up on a fairly regular basis. And of course, Beth McDonald has really helped in that regard to facilitate the process. She is considered a corporate intuitive and astrologer with Beth McDonald Consulting here in the city of Santa Barbara, here on the Central Coast. She does have a website. It's bethmcdonaldconsulting.com. We'll be linked to that website as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. Death and dying and the years preceding that particular event. We're talking about that here on the program here with corporate intuitive and astrologer Beth McDonald, and we're talking about it because it's something that needs to be discussed. Quite simply, it's something that if we don't talk about it by the time it's time, and this is what's interesting. I remember when my father was in the final,
Oh, yeah.
I will say the final year. I remember being at their home. I flew in for my sister's memorial, my eldest sister, his eldest daughter. And I remember him making the statement, which I had no reply for at all. parents aren't supposed to be burying their kids. And I just sat there going, oh boy.
Yeah, it's hard to not cry
Yeah,
when that happens. It's really
exactly.
hard to not cry.
But then my mother shared with me a conversation she had with him. I don't know if it was weeks or months later, where he says, I'm tired. I just want to go. I just want to go. Now, the man is never suicidal. I bet you if he gave him a psychological test, he'd pass it with flying colors, no problem. He was just tired. He was 91 going on 92. And he raised 6 kids in the process. But she also knew his health. She told me he had the blood pressure of a 20-year-old. He was healthy from that standpoint, aside from the fact low vision, ears, so forth. Anyway, he says, I just want to be here. So her response to him was, okay, so what are you going to die of? I mean, and she was trying to keep it light and so forth, but she understood where he was coming from. She was trying to, not really get serious, but I know they had the conversations. I know that they did. And he was under hospice care for the last, I don't know, maybe month or two, though he still walked around and he was still doing this and that and the other. But I'm sure that they set everything in motion up to a point. And then, of course, we got to talk with him the night before he passed. And fortunately, we had video rolling. We didn't record it. I wish we had, but that's okay. And he said, I love you and I'm very proud of you and Amrita for what you're doing and where you were at and so on and so on and so on. And then I found out how they let him go. They put chairs around his bed there at my parents' home. And they, as my mother put it, sang him into heaven.
Yeah.
They sang songs.
Quite common.
Yeah.
It's
and
quite common.
Oh, I wish I'd been there, but hey, I don't regret that. It's just, yeah.
Oh, there's actually a national group with chapters in the different cities called the Bedside Singers.
I love that.
And they sing a cappella harmonies. There's a very sophisticated group here in town headed by Penelope Salinger. And remind me after the show, I will connect you. For people who are, and families who are musically inclined, that can be very soothing and very comforting because passing the time can be, if you're not very emotionally or spiritually sophisticated, passing the time at the bedside can be very challenging. And it's very important to do things that work for the group. Like I had a family a couple of years ago where they made, on what they figured was his last night, they made his favorite meal. They served his favorite beverages and desserts. They played his favorite music. He was out of it. He was comatose, but they say the sense of touch and the sense of hearing are the last senses you lose as you die. And so these kinds of things can be very profound, very powerful for both the person passing and the people who are left behind, creating a sense of ritual. And for some families, like the one I was just describing, that kind of thing, like they still feel empowered by that, which is exactly what you want. For other families, it's having somebody like Penelope's Bedside Singers, it's the Threshold Choir. The Threshold Choir, and it's a nationally trademarked group.
I like the title.
Yeah, they sing at the threshold and they sing a cappella harmonies because harmony is the highest vibration of music. Just like rose oil is the highest vibrational tone of essential oils or scents. Harmonies are the highest vibration of sound. And so there's little things you can do that make it better and easy. And I'm so happy your family had kind of a similar experience that way, because singing them out is a phrase you hear a lot in hospice.
I just and of course, yeah, I wish I had been there, but that's okay. Now I made a mistake as soon as I received the text from my older sister that he's gone or he's passed or what have you. I immediately called her And unfortunately, I went into this particular mode. I was asking questions,
Yeah.
the interviewer,
Yeah.
about what songs did you sing and so on and so forth. And it's like, and she got angry, and justifiably so. I understand that, because she was in her emotions. She
Right.
and my sisters were probably a little closer to my dad than my brother and I, although my brother and I were still, we still loved him and cared for him. And it was an extraordinary experience to hear about. And like I said, I wish I had been there to experience it. That would have been very cool. But one of the things that I want to jump back to
Sure.
is the process of preparation, and maybe starting from this vantage point, when should we begin the preparation, let's say, on the material level in this world, of all of the stuff.
The
Uh,
stuff.
but before we jump there, I'm at, because this is what's coming in right now. Is
Yeah.
one of the things that came to mind when you were talking earlier about not the stuff, but the experiences, the people, etc., was this one phrase, and the movie's fantastic, by the name of the bucket list.
Yeah.
How important is that, and when do you think one should begin that process? Wait until they get into their senior years, or does it matter if you think about a bucket list, start making the list, and then start doing it, even if you're in your 30s or 40s?
Well, what I love about this question is that if you're really present with yourself, you've always got a bucket list. You're just always ticking things off of it. The bucket list I had at 30 was not the bucket list I had at 35 or 40 or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and it just keeps changing. But one of the things I will caution about is, like, a lot of times is the self focus. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of times with the bucket list, it's about me, me, me. It's the experiences I want to have out in my ever changing world. And nobody gets to their deathbed and says, gee, I wish I'd had more focus on my selfishness. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a fine line here, because sometimes it's like, wow, I wish I hadn't been such a people pleaser and I'd taken a stand for doing more of the things I wanted. And so that's why um, things like therapy and shamanic ritual and energy work and books and shows like yours and books like yours about choices, staying current with your material and making your life a rolling spiritual practice all
Yeah.
day, every day, is your best hedge.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for me, um, the ultimate goal is what they call having a good death. Now, a good death is generally understood to be one that is free from avoidable distress, avoidable suffering, and in accord with the patient's wishes, the family's wishes, and reasonably consistent with clinical, cultural, and ethical standards. Now, this is that last 4 or 5 words is where it gets a little funky, because we now have 5 or 6 states
Mm-hmm.
with death with dignity laws.
I'm glad
And
California is one of them.
me too. I wish they would broaden it,
Yeah.
because now what I'm seeing is what I saw with my mother. Our fathers and Eric's father had a very similar trajectory. They all died about the same time, 2010, 2011. That was a brutal year for a lot of us. I remember that. We were all going through that.
Yeah.
And my mother had dementia for 20 years. And for the last 5 years of it, she just kept saying, I want to die. This is the definition of a living hell, to be this forgetful and this clumsy and this scared all the time, because I don't remember people. I don't remember who I am. I don't remember things. In her lucid moments, she was hating her life. And so, for a lot of us, an extended dementia diagnosis is like a prison thing.
Yeah.
And I would love it if the states with She was not in a state with death with dignity laws, and my understanding now is that none of them really have any um, clauses in them for just dementia. If you have something else, you might be able to get some relief. But for now, I think these laws are great. Not enough states have them, and not enough states have the fluidity and the flexibility to meet the needs of our changing populations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to talk more about that. We're talking with Beth McDonald. She has Beth McDonald Consulting. The website is bethmcdonaldconsulting.com. She is a corporate intuitive as well as an astrologer. We're going to talk a little bit about that as well as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, and I'm with Beth McDonald here on the program. And we've known each other for quite a long time. And I am still I'm amazed, stunned, flabbergasted, if you will, at the fact that I am now saying that I am 65. Really? That, it's like when I reached the weight of 200 pounds, and that kind of made me no, I wasn't rotund or obese per se. The number didn't.
It's a wake up call.
It
It's a
is.
wake up call. Yeah.
But the number, it wasn't the weight so much as the number. The number didn't feel right. I said,
Yeah.
no, that's not my number. Now I'm down around, I think, 160, but that's due to other conditions that I'm working on as well. But it's like I've always said, I feel like I'm 17 inside. I'm 17, not 50 or 55 or 60 or 65.
Yeah.
And we all kind of get that. We all hit that. I don't want to say it's a wall per se. It's more like a curtain that we then go through. When we realize, because I remember speaking with, I think her name was Jeannie West, and she used to hold she holds the senior expos every year here in Santa Barbara.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I used to ask her, so when does one become a senior? She says, well, it on the organization. This was back when I was 50.
Yeah.
And 50 and so forth. Most places, it's some will start at 55 and then they work their way up. And I thought, okay, and now that I'm 65, I have my AARP card. I've been getting Social Security since I was 63. And now I'm looking at all the discounts I can take advantage of now that I'm up here, as opposed to down there when there were no discounts. And one of the things I want to go kind of back to the bucket list, then we're going to get back to the material preparation, if it's months or years ahead beforehand. It was one of the things that's run through my mind. My wife and I, as you already know, and our listeners know, because I've shared this, we're moving. We don't know where. We haven't found a place yet as of this broadcast. If you know of any place, please let us know. 2 bedrooms, and so forth. Give me a call, an email. You know my email. It's richard@richarddugan.com. I give that out every program. So please, if you've got something, let me know. Be that as it may, the resources that we have now make me think, okay, we've always wanted to, live in Ireland.
Right.
But a preliminary to that, if you will, would be to go there for another third 2-week vacation.
Yeah.
As we are in this process of moving. So it's almost like, okay, we find a place, we throw all of our stuff in it, and we take off for 2 weeks.
Yeah. No, I've done that. Yeah. There's something very therapeutic about that. But at our age, and with the current changes to Social Security, Medicaid and Medicare, and with the ones we know are coming down the pike, there's this real balancing act that we need to do between bucket list and so with that bucket list and what I'm starting to call bucket lifestyle. Like for a lot of boomers, people like you and I are often, it's not clear whether we're boomers or Gen X. and the boomers got everything.
Yeah.
And a lot of us, 5 of the 6 greatest economic downturns happened in our lifetime.
Yeah.
Minimum wage was $7 an hour for most of our lifetime. We
Mm.
did not have the benefits of the boomers. And so as a result, we don't have a lot in general in any form of retirement account.
Mm-mm.
The stuff we've earned through the social safety nets is low and diminishing. And so you have to take a really good hard look at,
Yeah.
do I want to be doing my bucket list, or do I want to be living in my car in 2 years?
Yeah.
You know, because a lot of people are, and especially here in Santa Barbara, we are making homeless people, we have the most sophisticated system and the most effective system of rehousing the unsheltered here in our city and county than we have ever had. And it's better, it's a bellwether for a lot of other cities and counties. And yet, we are still making more homeless people than we can rehome.
Hmm.
And it's mostly older folks with cognitive issues.
Yeah.
And so we have to be really, really mindful,
Yeah.
because if we don't make good choices now, choices are made for us later down the road. And again, I have been doing this kind of work since the late 90s. Since COVID, it's become a much bigger portion of the work that I'm doing in terms of crisis management.
And
But
here's, yeah. And here's the plus though. Here is the plus side of it. And that is through this program in particular, but through other methods I'm sure that you utilize, this is, it's getting out there. The word is getting out that this is something that
yeah,
needs to be dealt with. You need to
start now.
ties in that regard.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's nuts. And you're absolutely right about that. And I'm so grateful. But I keep thinking back about, I used to be on your program every week and we talked about astrology
Oh,
and
that's right. Yes.
psychic stuff. And I wish to God I'd been a little more prescient and we had talked about this stuff more.
Hmm.
And so maybe that's just our agreement. Maybe we
But we
talk
were
about this
young. We
stuff
were young
more.
and foolish.
We were young and foolish. Chalk it up to youth. Oh, the foolishness of youth. Yeah.
Oh
But
man.
we just never expected
Yeah.
that things would turn the way they have turned. And now it kind of feels like we're working hard to dig out.
Yeah.
And
You
so
know,
I'm just urging caution and being very, very clear and conservative with your money. And if that causes emotional distress, deal with the emotional distress, because the emotional distress of living in your car is going to be worse.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And when Amrita was working for the cardiology department at Sansom Clinic, she knew of several people who were working full time and
yeah.
living in their car.
I've got three now. I've got an unprecedented three people in their 50s who are nomads just since Christmas.
Mm,
And and they're not like elderly. They're middle-aged, they're younger than us, but they're in their 50s. And it's unprecedented in my life and in my practice. People that I have known for a decade, three
yeah,
decades, 4 decades, one of them. And it's just kind of like, wow, this is not just headlines.
yeah,
These are our friends, our family members, our community.
yeah.
And this is going to take a lot of groundedness to sort out.
Right.
Yeah.
I know that in the process of packing things up, we are going
Oh,
through and downsizing. Okay.
I
I've
love this.
Yeah, and I've been in Santa Barbara for 19 plus years. I've been interviewing all that time. I actually started Tell Me Your Story in this town in
Right.
2007. And so I have boxes and boxes and boxes of books. And I have a plan to, if I can, sell them uh,
Yeah.
and so forth. I'm going to, the containers they sell at Costco, I'm going to fill one and say, okay, this container contains, I don't know what the genres are, nonetheless, it's full of books. And I will sell this container of books for $110. The 100 would be for the books, and there are going to be dozens and dozens of
Oh,
books.
yeah.
worth more than, and they're in pristine condition, number one. But the $10 is to go so I can go out and buy another container. But anyway, it's one of those things that I don't want this stuff to wind up in the landfill. I mean, you talk about
Right.
preparation, you talk about being responsible, you talk about being concerned for what you're leaving behind to your loved ones and your relatives and so forth. Well, how about what you're leaving behind to your community
Your community. Yeah.
overall and so forth? And in this case, we've got cabinets that we're probably not taking with us
Yeah.
just because. And so we're going to try to sell those. And if we can't, we're going to find someone who will just take them, bring your truck up and so forth. So it's like going through this
Mindfully.
and saying, I want to be responsible in that respect. And who knows, maybe someone will be able to use this and keep it and so forth. Because neither of us really has relatives that we can pass any of this stuff on to.
Right. And it's common. It's common. I'm so, so glad you're bringing this up. And I am reminded once again how we are like, we both have so much Gemini and we have been like Gemini twins on a lot of things. I, like you, am bookish. And because I really enjoy geeking out on the esoteric astrological resources, I have books that are like copies of things that are 400 years old,
Oh,
you
I
know,
love those. I love those, my
and I
Beth.
have a library of over 200 volumes. And when my husband and I redid our will and our living trust and medical directives and all that stuff, we got smart. We did it finally this year. It's taken 18 months. It's hard, but do it. One of the things we did was we've been doing some clearing based on like the Swedish death cleaners model, which I'll share with you about that in a minute. But there were certain things I knew my kids probably wouldn't want, and my friends probably, and my students probably wouldn't want. And so I made a list of successors. Like my first choice would be to donate all these books to the Joseph Campbell Library at Pacifica.
Mm-hmm.
And if they won't take them, try the UCSB Psychology Library or Religious Studies Library somewhere out at the university, because both Eric and I went there.
Mm-hmm.
And Abel's biological father went there, and Kate went there, my daughter-in-law. It's like we're a legacy family. And
Yeah.
if they don't take it, Antioch. If they won't take it, try Westmont. And then if they won't take it, donate it to one of the high schools, or one of the charities is that I love a lot is the Assistance League
Mm-hmm.
here, and also Transition House.
Mm.
Transition House helps home the unhoused, and they don't just get them dialed in with a place. They make sure they've got the coaching and the counseling they need so they have the living skills. And then they basically give them all the furniture and all the dishes and all the, tchotchkes and lamps and bedding and whatever they need to live successfully in the home.
Yeah.
And so there was a couple of, I did a lot of homework on this where it's like, okay, I don't want that stuff in a landfill either. And there's magic in them. And I want to be able to like disseminate this stuff consciously into the world. So these things will land in the right hands,
Yeah.
because these things, I know you feel the same way because we've talked about it. Some of these books saved my life. Some of
Yeah.
these books changed my life. Some of these books helped me to save other people's lives or help other people's lives. And that's not going to die on my watch, you know?
Absolutely. We're talking with Beth McDonald. Beth McDonald Consulting is the website, bethmcdonaldconsulting.com. She's a corporate intuitive and astrologer, and we're going to talk more with her as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. This is a program that is here bringing about new paradigms for a new world, and we are in a new world. Beth, I have to say that the song by REM, it's the end of the world as we know it. And what that means to me is that the world that I knew, not just 40 years ago, 30, 20, 10, 5, yesterday, that
Yeah.
world is gone.
Yeah.
It's gone.
Every day.
And that's why we talk about new paradigms. And that's what we're
Yeah.
bringing up right now is new paradigms in terms of thinking about how we are going to not only prepare for, but deal with the impending, I'm hoping it's for 35 years from now, impending departure from this world. Now, in deference to Bernie Siegel, who I've had on this program, we were discussing the death of his wife. And I was asking him a question about his wife and if he'd ever heard from her following her, my word, transition.
Transition.
And he said, what do you mean transition? What is wrong with saying she died? That's what. Why can't we say die? And so I say that with all deference to
Yeah.
Bernie. That is true, but I will depart one day. My body will cease to function, and my soul will leave. And we're talking about how we used to deal with death and dying in this country. We
Yeah.
didn't. We didn't. That's how we used to deal with it. We didn't.
Well,
But
I
I
want
want
to
to.
challenge that. I want to push back on that because,
Well, I mean, in terms of, for example, COVID, you brought that up as a benchmark.
yeah,
And the one thing, the biggest positive, in my opinion, that came out of COVID, the positive that came out was the fact that we started to talk about
about it.
mental health and wellness.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're now
Yeah.
having dialogue. And now here we are, we're talking about preparations for our departure, if you will.
Yeah.
But go ahead, you wanted to challenge
Oh,
my
one of the big hot topics in the hospice movement since COVID
Mhm.
is the lack of intergenerational knowledge.
Ah,
I was raised in a farming community. My mother was born in McCrory, Arkansas, to sharecroppers. The town was 1,700 people. And every summer, my mother and father were born to sharecroppers, but they were the first generation to not do that, to break out, to find the middle class. They did that through the military, but I still spent my summers in Arkansas and Texas with their people in those small farming communities. And in those small farming communities, you didn't get to let the crazy lady drive the bus. If grandma got dementia, you circled the dragon and you worked together to create a container for her.
yeah.
And I watched my grandmother and my aunts and uncles do this and their neighbors with great sincerity, sensitivity, but like clear-eyed pragmatism, almost stoicism.
Hmm.
Like one example is my mother's father's parents, you know, needless to say, grew up in poverty, no psychotherapy, no real commitment to religion, even, or practicing the principles of the faith they said they adhered to. And they were both very angry, very difficult people.
Mm.
And as they got older, there was no nursing homes, there was no in home care. Like families had to figure out how to do this. And my extended family got together and they decided that the first thing they were going to do for the health of the entire tribe was to split them up. The two of them together were too darn toxic. And so,
Mm.
and then everybody would take a 1 year shift with one of the grandparents. And so that's just how they did it. And I think my great grandpa lasted for like 4 years. My great grandma lasted for 8, but they worked together. Family as democracy, family as functioning tribal unit. We don't have to like each other. We don't have to agree. We do have to solve the problem. And so there's a lot of not just Southern Scots Irish culture that does this. I've seen this amazingly in some of the Hispanics here in Santa Barbara. Um, I've seen this amazingly in different religious and ethnic cultures. It's not completely lost, but if you haven't had the benefit of witnessing your elders do that, then that's lost.
Yeah.
And so you don't understand the value of it. You don't know the tools of the trade, you don't know how to create it, and it usually is a bigger process. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense, and it brings to mind what happened following my father's passing, following his memorial. And we were all in the dining room, living room. It was all one room. And the brothers-in-law of my four sisters, including my eldest sister who had passed the year before.
I forgot how many there were.
My heavens.
Yeah.
Total 6 in the family.
Yeah.
So we're all standing around talking. And of course, I'm concerned, but I know that my concerns are unfounded because my mother, who is now by herself, is going to be by herself. And they told me collectively,
yeah,
don't worry, Richard. We will look after your mom. Whatever she needs taken care of, we'll take care of it. I mean, so now all of a sudden, instead of only having one brother, and I said this to them, I said, you guys are not brothers-in-law anymore. It's fantastic that I now have 5 brothers.
That is I'm so glad you said that. That is the epitome of a spiritual family.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to pray together. You don't have to go to church together. You do have to walk the talk.
Mm-hmm.
And without any evangelizing, without any verbal pontificating, it's like they have said to you their intention, it comforted you, and they have lived that, right? You've never questioned what they've been doing.
I've never even asked what they've been doing because I know that my mother is cared for.
Yeah.
And my mother, and my mother is still sharp as a tack. She's still, I can hear it in her voice when I talk to her on the phone. She's got the strength in her voice.
Yeah.
She still goes to the gym and exercises. She will drive the 60 miles to Florence, Arizona to visit her sister and her sister's family and so forth.
Oh my gosh.
So she's still doing the stuff that she's always loved to do, and now she's just doing it by herself, and she is actually thriving in that regard. And yet, I also know she misses my dad, just like
of course she does. She loved him.
She has a support team, and she got scammed. All right, now she's a smart woman.
Seeing so much of that on the phone and on the laptops.
And here's the beautiful thing about that scam: my youngest sister stepped in and helped her, didn't do it all for her, but helped her to get it all straightened out.
Yeah.
Right. I won't even go into the details. It's just the fact of the matter is that I know that because they live in Phoenix and the surrounding areas, that my mother is covered by the 4 brothers, if you will, and my 3 remaining sisters.
Yeah.
And of course, I know that in my last conversation with my mother regarding our situation here in Santa Barbara, I can hear the worry in her voice because I'm her eldest son. And in spite of the fact that she has always told me, Richard, I've never worried about you because you always managed to land on your feet. But this last conversation, I didn't hear the subtext of that in her voice. She's very concerned. And I'm just sitting here going, do you know what I do when I get into that mindset of maybe worrying about, oh my God, we haven't found a place and it's already the end of July. We got about, and so forth. My wife and I are both Reiki masters. Yeah. And in addition to sending absentee healings to people, you can send it to situations. So every time that monkey starts to talk, that monkey, I put up the hands and I do the Reiki on the situation. And I couldn't believe this. And I only started this a couple of days ago. Oh, how much that has helped. So I want to get into, as we continue here, the more spiritual or metaphysical aspects of the preparation in this regard as we continue talking with Beth McDonald here on Tell Me Your Story. The conversation we are having on this program, I hope that you'll listen to it. I hope you'll re-listen to it. You can certainly listen to it on SoundCloud and all of the outlets for the podcast. You can also watch the conversation and meet indirectly. You can meet Beth and get in touch with her through her website, bethmcdonaldconsulting.com. Let's talk about the spiritual aspects.
I'm feeling that in my soul seat chakra. I wouldn't have thought of this, but this is epic. This is brilliant, Richard.
All I can say to you right now is, you go, girl.
Yeah. Okay. When I first uh, got my calling as a psychic, I was hesitant and I was resistant because it kind of made me feel even more different and weird than I felt. I felt like the village crazy lady,
Mm.
but a number of really wise local psychics, Uta Solnar, Elvira Bull, Pam Osley, Gary
Yeah.
Douglas, Deborah Shea, a lot. There were so few here then, but we were like this little they were like this little container for me, and they were like, you just do it and trust that it's like Harry Potter. The wand will choose the wizard. I thought it would be all tourists and trophy wives, and I couldn't believe the things that were coming to me. And in the beginning, it was such a joy because as a psychic medium, as a clairvoyant and a clairaudient and a clairsentient, where I can communicate with the dead, people want to talk to their beloved dead, their dearly departed on the other side. And it was just such an honor and a privilege to give them something meaningful, to be that bridge for them. So that was phase one of like, whoa, this is really awesome. But phase two of this is really awesome was the subject matter. No
Mhm.
matter how well they got along, no matter how good the death was, and I may get emotional about this, there was always a check in. There was always a check in. There was always fear. And there was a fear based on love. I love you. Did you get across okay? I'm afraid your soul may have gotten out of the body, but it didn't make it all the way across. Are you good? You know, did you make it first? And then, secondly, was are we good? Did I do enough of the right things for you
Yeah.
before you died? And am I doing enough of the right things for you and our beloveds now?
Yeah.
And then, like, phase three was the apologies. The apologies were like pages long.
Yeah.
People were saying to each other across the veil all the things they were too proud to say in a body on this planet. What does that tell you? We're kind of stupid. we we kind of got this wrong, you know? It's not about the Mercedes or the high-end jewelry or the house on the beach. It's like, can you say I love you on a daily basis to the people that you love? If
Mhm.
yes, do it daily. If no, figure that the heck out
Yeah.
because that's what matters.
Yeah. I will
That's
tell
what
you,
matters.
as far as my father is concerned, and I'll just make this brief because I want you to continue on that path.
Yeah, no, it's you're gonna illustrate this in the most
I
perfect
am.
way.
My
Yeah.
father, over the last 20 or 30 years, when we would get on the phone, or if we were visiting, he would always tell me, especially as we were leaving, how proud he was of me and what I'm doing and what I accomplished. And then the night before his passing, when we were on the phone watching him, he said it again. And I told him I loved him. And we ended the conversation. And I know there are a lot of people, and I thought about this at the time, who feel as though, oh man, I wish I had said this, that, and the other thing. At my as I was preparing for bed the night following my sister's memorial, my father came into the room. Now, about 2 hours earlier, he had come into the room and said, "Where's your brother Mike?" Now, my brother's a jokester. So I said, "Well, Dad, we had to sell him to put gas in the car." My father was not happy. He was
He took you
mad.
seriously.
He did. So I
Oopsies.
immediately apologized for being cute. My brother
Yeah.
had gotten away with that, not me. I said, "I'm sorry. He's decided he's going to come back with so and so, and he'll be here in a little while." So my father comes into the living room as I'm making up the couch because my brother got there first. So he got the spare room.
Yeah.
And he apologized for getting so upset. And I turned around and I put my hands on his shoulders and I said, "Dad, we're good. I love
Good.
you and you will always be my father."
Yeah.
And I can say to this day that we left nothing unsaid.
That is the spiritual factor. That, in a nutshell, is making sure that nothing is unsaid before they cross. Because that's the burden. Remember in Charles Dickens, uh, the 40 yards of chain of Marley's ghost. It was
Yeah.
all the regrets and all the things he hadn't done and all the apologies and the amends he had not made.
Yeah. And it's so, and it's not just to the parents or to your siblings, but even to
Right.
your spouse or your significant
Oh,
other.
good Lord, or the dog,
Oh,
or the neighbor, or to yourself.
yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, we just laid to rest our dog back in June of this
I'm
year.
so
And
sorry.
as I was, this is literally dragging him out of the house on a rug, slowly and gently down the
Yeah,
steps
because
and
he's a
one
big
ramp,
boy. Yeah.
I was talking to him the whole time. And when I came back in, when I was done laying him to rest, my wife, Amrita, came up to me. She hugged me. She says, "That was so sweet." And I'm going, "What?" She says, "That you were talking to him the whole time."
I love your wife.
Oh, she
She
just,
she gets it, man. She totally
yeah,
gets it.
yeah.
Yeah. You guys are such a pair.
And I tell you that it has this process, even of the moving, not just of laying Angus to rest, but the moving has actually brought us closer together. I have been doing so much on my own over the last few years because of her health, since she was fired from her job. And now I am doing everything I can to make sure that I keep her in the loop on whatever's happening. And
Yeah.
I've given her a task, of course. I said, I don't care where you look, you can look anywhere you want for a place for us
Yeah.
because you know what we want
Yeah.
and so forth. You know what our budget is and so forth. And so she's been doing that because there was one instance where she came into my studio and she told me about this house she was thinking that maybe we could buy. And my first thought was, no, 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 no. We're looking for a place to rent right now. I don't think we qualify for anything to buy. And that put her off a little bit. So I had to back that off and say, first apologize and then say, look, I'm sorry. You you do whatever you need to do. You look for whatever and then basically, you know what we need. And that made all the difference in the world.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something that doesn't happen in families, especially dealing with someone who is headed towards the veil.
And this is where I've got two of these right now
Okay.
that are in a crisis situation because the family couldn't talk about it. And so the most important thing is to figure out how comfortable people are with the D word and planning for it. And for couples of longevity, like your marriage and my marriage, it's very, very challenging to talk about it, even in the best of circumstances, because most of us can't imagine life without the other.
Yeah.
And so, like in the context of, okay, husband, I'm likely because of my age and my health issues to pass before you, because that's our situation too. How do we set things up so you are self-contained? And so things are as easy and smooth for you. And that's one of the nine concepts of a good, nine or 12, I forget now, concepts of a good death, where it's like everything is set up so that people don't suffer or suffer as little as possible during the death and after the death, like in the funerary process
Right.
and the transition process where you're getting the 30 copies of the death certificate and you're sending it to everybody who has to have it, and
Mhm.
changing the names on the bank accounts and all that stuff. But then there's life after,
Yeah.
because and then there's all these other rules about widowhood. Like the first year is just getting used to being alone, and
Yeah.
then the second year is about how do I build my life now? What do I want it to look like?
Mhm.
And so, because that bit is so grueling, you want to make sure that you've got the end nailed down. And I've got a family right now where the wife just got a terminal cancer diagnosis, and she's got a lot of the sign of Pisces, which can be so frail and which needs a container in her chart. And she's 80 something and she can't handle talking about it. And so the whole extended family is hamstrung. And of course, she doesn't have a medical directive. She doesn't have life insurance. She's got 2 storage units full of stuff that need to be sorted out. And like, here we are. And so it gets back to that adage that or the cliche that they use in hospice is that if you fail to plan, you force God's hand, and things will have to be done for you. And if you wait too long to get your documents in order, like if you have a dementia diagnosis,
Mm.
or Alzheimer's or Parkinson's to a certain degree, you're no longer legally considered of sound mind and body and able to create those documents. And so
Yeah.
there is a fair sense of urgency in your 50s and your 60s.
Yeah.
Astrologically, there's a window at 63 and there's another at 67. And so as an astrologer, it's not what other death midwives and hospice people do unless they've got a background in astrology, but like using the transits
Hmm.
can be a real
Yeah.
kind of a can opener to those kinds of conversations. It's definitely easier. Saturn transits occur about every 7 years, and it's a good time to do those things. There's a combination of things that are happening at 63 and at 67. And so that's a good window. But for the people who are really, really emotionally challenged around this,
Mhm.
you usually have to call in an army of professionals.
Yeah. Well,
And you yeah,
yeah. And my parents, and they shared with us some dreams that they'd had. I mean, this is years ago. With my Amrita and I would go over to their house on Sundays when we were still living in
yeah,
Phoenix, having some awesome conversations.
yeah,
They even shared these dreams that they had about my father was lost and he was looking for her and couldn't find her and so on and so forth. And I will tell you that there was a point at which I realized that he better go first because
right?
he won't survive
Yeah,
with her, but
yeah,
she will survive without him. For how long, I don't know. But one of the other things that I want to bring up here, and that is this: in that conversation I had with my father the night before his passing, I wanted to say to him, Dad, it's okay. You can go whenever you want.
oh, that's
I,
another big thing.
I didn't say that.
Oh,
I thought, now wait a minute. He already knows. He does not need to be encouraged by me to do that. Now, my wife has been going through some health issues that
yeah,
really have been debilitating, but I feel that she's getting stronger each day. It's incremental, but it's still. But there was a point at which I actually tried to be as gentle as I possibly could
yeah,
and say, look, I understand that you hate this, you don't like feeling like this, and you don't have to stay. And she did get a little angry because she thought I wanted her to go. And I said, I don't want you to go. I just don't want you to suffer. That was the focal point for me. And she says, I just want to feel better. And I said, I want that for you too. And as I said, it's an incremental thing.
yeah,
I know that there does come a point, and we even said this to each of our dogs and our cats. We would verbalize that.
you
To
have to.
you can
Yeah,
go. It's okay. It's okay.
you're not letting me
We help
down.
the dogs. We help
Yeah.
the dogs, and so forth. But nonetheless, because we felt that they were ready, they were telling us. What about that aspect in terms of dealing with that person who, let's just say, is in hospice?
That is a brilliant question. I'm so glad you brought this up because this was actually a turning point in my career. And it's one of those teaching stories that illustrates like at least three different points along the lines of things we've been talking about. One is common scenarios around permission. The other is family involvement. And the third is how politics influences our experiences as humans.
Mm.
And so, like I said, in the 90s, when I first started doing this kind of work, it was all only checking in with the beloved dead and making sure everybody was kosher and copacetic and everything was groovy. A
Yeah.
little later, in about 2002, 2003, when there were some changes when everything went from health insurance to health management organizations and everybody was trying to cut costs.
Yeah.
There was a scenario where I was getting a lot of calls, like I talked about in that article with Carpinteria's Coastal View News, where I
Yeah.
started getting all these calls from people who were like, you know, Billy's doctor says he has 3 weeks to live with this bladder cancer and he won't let go. He won't let go. And
Mhm.
because there's such a mystique about you have to battle cancer, you have to
Yeah.
fight it.
Yeah.
And, in hospice, we come from a completely different angle of it. Disease comes from your subconscious, your unconscious,
Hmm.
which is like 90% of your being.
Yeah.
It's bigger than your conscious thing. And if it's trying to kill you, there's something going on. And so
Yeah.
we need to figure out what's going on. Why does more of you want to kill you than wants to live?
And I'll
So that's,
quickly share with you an
yeah,
analogy I came up with when Amrita's nephew passed away from leukemia.
yeah.
And you hear that phrase all the time.
You got
Oh,
to fight
lost,
cancer.
they
Yeah.
lost their they
They
lost their
lost the
battle.
fight.
All
Yeah.
right. And what finally occurred to me was you can't lose. Okay. And here's the reason why. If it goes into remission, all right, then you've won. But if it causes the physical body to cease to function, you still won because now you are free of that
Of
body,
it.
of
Yeah.
it. So there is no win-lose scenario. It's always win-win.
Yeah.
And
I
I know that's a
agree.
tough. That's
That's
a
a whole other topic, but you're absolutely right. We should talk about that in part two next
okay.
time.
We
But
can do
like,
that.
there's an absolute way that we language these things that is disempowering and shaming
Yeah,
to the individual, to the family, and that's got to quit.
yeah,
But back to the thing, in the beginning, it was like helping people who were on their last breaths be okay with letting go. That's one form of giving them permission. There's another form of giving them permission that is quite profound and culturally born of certain cultures and certain life experiences. And that has to do with the greatest generation who saw combat, or wives of those who saw combat, or survivors of the Holocaust from World War II.
yeah,
And it was so perfectly illustrated in those Band of Brothers, the TV series, the interviews, where to a man, all the survivors were like, oh, I'm not a hero. The one who died was the hero. They
mm,
don't feel like they've yet earned the right to continue living. Like they feel like whatever battlefield promises they made to the dead and the dying, they haven't kept up their end of the deal. And so, one of the other things I noticed in 2006 and 2007, when they changed Medicare Part B and they stopped covering hospitalizations for the dying, but we did not as yet. This is almost 20 years, about 20 years ago. We
Yeah.
did not yet have a hospice infrastructure in most communities. And so people were having to die in their living room with a family who was unprepared and very little support from visiting nurses. And I started getting calls from people from all over the country who knew me from other gigs, executives from Lagunitas, the beer company, from
Mhm.
Volcom, from some of these big television networks, all over the country. And it's like, okay, dad is a Holocaust survivor. He's been dying doing the death rattle in the living room for 3 weeks. And I feel like he can't let go. He won't let go.
Mhm.
Can you psychically tune into him and tell me what's going on with him? Because I feel like he's stuck and he won't let himself go. And I tuned in, and this was the first time I ever saw this. And this was life changing for me. And it was totally that vibrational tone from the men on the Band of Brothers show, where it's like they felt like they were dishonoring the lives and the sacrifices and the souls of the people they knew who died
Mhm.
in that awful scenario. And they didn't feel like they had earned the right to go home. And I was like, oh, honey, you take his hand, you touch his face, you kiss his head, you tell him he's loved, and his comrades in arms, his brothers in arms, his fellow inmates from the camps, they are waiting for him with open arms. He has not let anybody down. He
Yeah.
served with honor
Mhm.
amongst military and certain segments of certain cultures is really important. You see this a lot with dogs. Dogs need to be told they have served with honor. And I just had one last week. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, she was going to
Yeah.
hang on forever. But they need to be told it's okay.
Yeah.
Tell them to look to the spirits that have come to carry them across.
Yeah.
And that was the first, and I just sobbed. It was so profound. But it was also teachable because then later I started seeing a lot of that for the next 2 to 3 years. And it wasn't just the soldiers and it wasn't just the people in the camps. It was one of them was the wife of a naval officer who had served in some of those awful uh, campaigns in the Pacific.
Mhm. Yeah.
Like the military wives also serve, staying home and keeping the kids calm and keeping each other calm and making sure, like, that's why they let the wives also be buried at the national cemeteries,
Yeah.
because they also served. But I
Yeah.
had to tell one of the wives it was okay for her to let go because she was still on duty.
Yeah.
God
Well,
bless her.
the last thing I'll add to this before we wrap up is another intuitive on this program shared that those on the other side see us,
Yep.
you and I, as heroes because we chose to come into this world at this time to
Yeah.
deal with and
Yeah.
experience what we are experiencing.
Now. and
And
and trying to make a difference and often suffering
yeah,
incredibly for it.
yeah. And hopefully through these programs, we can at least
Change that.
give a greater understanding of
Yeah.
what we're going through, if we want to refer to it as suffering. I often would hear this phrase regarding my parents and bringing into this world 6 other souls, and oh, they must have really sacrificed. And I asked that of my parents 10 years ago when I had them on this program,
Yeah.
and they said, we didn't sacrifice a thing because this is what we wanted, a big family. Now,
Right.
the details of visual impairments and this and that and the other, asthma and on and on and on, that's just part of life. And with a big family, and you never know what you're going to get,
Yeah.
we were prepared for that,
Yeah.
at least from the standpoint that if the kids don't come into this world, with 10 toes and only 9, or legally blind or asthma, whatever, we'll deal with it. It'll be
Yeah.
fun, but that's what they wanted.
Yeah.
Beth, I cannot thank you enough for this conversation. We will do a part 2.
Let's do a part two.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll continue on talking about this because we do need to get back into the material world. And again, going through some of those steps, those 12 steps that you are talking about,
Yeah.
so that people can begin the process of preparing. I mean,
Right.
I will tell you that I don't have a will. My parents, when they sent us theirs, they sent them separately. In other words, there was one for my father and one for my mother. And I thought, okay, that's interesting. And then I read through it, right? And I misread it. And I'm thinking, well, they're not giving me, I'm not getting anything other than, the split of proceeds when the townhouse is sold.
Yeah.
And I thought about it, and I almost called my sister to ask her, and I almost called my mother to ask her. And my intuition, and this is something that we will talk about in the next program, my intuition said, reread the will. So I did.
Yeah.
And I found that, oh, they did leave me something. But then I also was told, whether you are getting anything physical from them or not, and I've said this on programs in the past, you have been given so much while they have been alive, not just your life, but how they've supported you in so many different ways. And I'm going, yeah, wow, okay, I'm good. I don't need to call anybody. I'm good.
Right.
And I'm good with what we've had as a conversation here on the program. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I want to ask you those 3 final questions that I ask all of my guests here on the program, whether they are new or returning. But before I do, I want to thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. We are giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m., and if I haven't already mentioned it, Wednesday at 9 a.m., streaming live at all those times at richarddugan.com. We have podcasts on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, Blueberry, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music. We're on YouTube where you can watch these conversations. I hope that you will subscribe and click notification. I hope you'll also go to Amazon and get a copy of Choices, 5 Steps for Life. That's my book, available in hardcover, paperback, and Kindle, as well as Audible, coming very, very, very soon. It's been almost a year since it was published, and I'm going to get that Audible out there ASAP. I also hope that you will leave us a tip. Our tip jar is called PayPal. Just go there. And by the way, there are links to Amazon and PayPal on the homepage of richarddugan.com. And finally, and we're going to bring this up in the next program, I hope that you'll take time during the decade of perfect vision, all right, so that you can spend some time going within to that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place and listen to that still, small voice. And with that, we now are going to ask our special guest here on the program those 3 final questions of the program, the first of which is, who is Beth McDonald?
She is a very old soul.
What gets you up in the morning?
My cat. He's relentless. Many of you know him, Mr. Biscuits.
Oh, wonderful. And finally, what was your best day?
Oh, golly. 2 of them come to mind. The first thing that comes to my mind is my son's wedding day. And the second thing that comes to my mind was the day my son was born.
Wonderful.
That's just stream of consciousness.
That's what we're looking for.
Yeah.
Thank you again for being a part of the work we're doing here.
Thank you. Thank
to
you for
make a
doing
difference
it all these
in the
years.
lives of whoever's listening.
Yep.
And I thank you again for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story. And until our next broadcast, podcast, videocast, love to Lal. Jeanette, I am still listening. Dad, continue to be happy because I am. Smokey, I'll see you on the other side. Mike, thanks for letting me be in your life. And to my dear friend Zorro, aho, aho.